on average, just in the United States, about 220 people die every single day from an opiate overdose. And by the time we finish this show, 8 to 10 people are going to die from an opiate overdose. If we get even one person, one viewer with this program that we might be able to help with some of the information that's shared on here, then it's all worth it. Hey everyone, it's Glenn Victor. Welcome to the Dare Me podcast. We are live from Miami, Florida. Peace. We're hoping that our connection stays good. You're going to hear lots of background noise because we are outside and on the balcony and the terrace of the 21st floor of the, what's the name of this place? The Art Center? Art Tower Plaza. My bad. That's my boy G sitting right next to me who's joining us on the show today. He will be coming on any second, and that boy Shivang is here too. I'm lifting this up to show you a little better view. There we go. Of downtown. I may end up having to hold this thing for a while because I really wanted to bring y'all a little bit of a view of where we're coming from. So anyways, there's G. Come on, G. Get in the shot, bro, and say hi to everybody. There he is. Yes, I got it, bro. You don't even have to worry about it. So anyway, we're going to be bringing G into the conversation and the show a little bit more, take a little bit of a deep dive with him, talking about fitness and stuff on the show today. And we also got that boy Shivang who's with us as well. So we also want to say welcome to Dean Baker, who is in Orlando, Florida. And there's Dean and there's Shivang. Welcome to the show, both of you guys.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, hey, Dean is in Orlando, Florida at the Post Effects Digital Studios, and Shivang is literally sitting right next to me. But this camera is, is kind of tight to get 3 people in the shot. So me and Glenn are sitting right next to each other, and Shivang is on his camera on his phone, literally right next to us. So you can see a little bit of Miami in the background with him too. So yeah, man, this ain't going to be a real long show today. We'll probably go about a half hour or so. We're going to talk a little bit about fitness today, since we got Glenn with us here on the program today, my son and my fitness coach. He doesn't like it when I call him fitness coach or fitness expert. Last time you were on the show, Glenn, we agreed that we would refer to you as a fitness enthusiast, right? So, and we actually did a little mini workout today over at Muscle Beach on South Beach. I was over there with Glenn and Shivang. And so we're going to talk with Glenn a little bit about fitness. He was out at the UFC fight in Salt Lake City that Dustin Poirier was in with Justin Gaethje a couple weeks ago. We even have a short little video clip from that, some pictures, and then we'll talk with G about his experience out there. We're going to get his take on the Jake Paul-Nate Diaz fight from last week and just talk about fitness a little bit. And then Shivang and I literally just got back from Bonita Springs, Florida, late last night, where we spent a couple of days at the South Florida Regional Convention of Narcotics Anonymous. It was the 27th annual one. And we went and attended that thing, and man, did we have a blast. So we got a couple of fun videos we're going to show there from there. They do a clean time countdown at all these recovery conventions, whether it's NA, AA, fucking A, whatever, A, as I often say on this show. And Shivang got a little short video clip of me, yours truly, when I stood up at the 2-year point, because I have been clean now for, actually it was 2 years and 5 months on August 11th, which coincidentally was just a couple of days ago. I happened to be at the convention when I realized it was 2 years and 5 months. So On that note, y'all, before we go into our deep dive conversation with Glenn and Shivang, always like to recap just a little bit of what this show is about. And I'm going to do a real short, condensed version of it today because, again, this show a little bit unusual. We are live outside here in Miami, Florida, and we got a couple of guests. So don't want to eat up too much time talking about it. Certainly, I've talked a lot about it on previous episodes of the show. By the way, this is episode 22 of the Dare Me podcast. Blows my mind. I can't believe it's been that long and that we've done that many shows. So you can hear much more about my story and in depth if you go back and watch previous episodes of the show, which are on the Dare Me Facebook page, certainly the Dare Me YouTube channel, which is my favorite one. I always try to direct people to the Dare Me podcast YouTube channel where you'll see all the previous episodes listed. We post them there after we go live, and people can go watch or listen to the recorded versions anytime they want. So long story short, like I said, y'all, a little bit about my story is, I've been clean now for 2 years, 5 months. I got hopelessly addicted to opiate pain medication when I broke my ankle. Had a little health challenge too, and they start prescribing that shit for me. I never should have taken it because I have a long history with challenges with addiction from when I was a teenager. I was a partier, like a lot of kids, all through high school and all that shit, and college. Caused a lot of problems in my life. And then I stayed clean for almost 17 years. I had a relapse that lasted several years, got clean again. And then I broke my ankle and I got hooked on them pills. And that turned into a 9-year run taking that shit. I was a functional drug user most of those years. But at the end of the road, y'all, it spun out of control. And getting off them things was literally the worst thing that ever happened in my life. Once I did, though, I decided to start this podcast, and we call it the Dare Me podcast. And you can see those hashtags Dean has up at the top of the screen. Kind of took the letters in the name Dare Me and made these little acronyms, these hashtags out of it. Drugs, addiction, recovery, which we talk about every show. Already talked about it on this one. We talk a lot about enlightenment. We've had some episodes of this show where that's all we focused on and talked about that. So if you go back and look at some of them previous episodes, you'll see some great stuff where we talk about that. We talk a lot about music, and man, we've had some great guests on the show. And next week, I'm going to talk a lot more about Shivang, and I went in the studio and recorded some stuff, and we'll spend some time on that next week. But again, this week, we are focusing on exercise and fitness, that last hashtag there. So with all that said, y'all, that kind of recaps the purpose of the show. If you are someone who come across this podcast, even if you're watching us live right now, and it's your first time joining us, we always like to give you a little bit of a recap and intro of what the show is all about. If you're somebody going through drug addiction to opiates or any other thing, we hope we might provide you with some hope and potentially some practical ideas and solutions you might be able to use to get the hell off of that shit and get on with your life and hopefully not die out there from a drug overdose or something like that. So anyhow, with all that said, y'all, we are here, like I said, live from Miami, Florida, and I'm going to go ahead and set this down now because y'all can you could see that we had the background there. We're literally right next to some of the high rises in downtown Miami. And we're coming to you live from the 21st floor of, what's the name of this place again, Glenn? I always forget. The Art
Tower Plaza.
Yeah, you got to get close to the mic, bro. Lean right up to that thing. There you go.
Yeah, Art Tower Plaza.
The Art Tower Plaza. Okay. So I teased a little bit that we have Shivang on the show today. Let's bring Shivang into the mix. Man, I'm looking for, there's Dean and there's Shivang. So Shivang, you've been here in Florida before. You've come to visit me when I lived in Orlando, but this is your first time to Miami, is that right?
First time in Miami, man. First time, yep.
So, and of course over to Fort Myers for the convention too. So, what you think, man? You know, I always say Florida's my second home, and I could live here again in a heartbeat. I'm out living in Sacramento now, which I love. And hey, to all my Sacramento friends, I'll be back in a couple of days. What do you think about, down here in South Florida?
Yeah, man. Especially at least Miami. I really like the vibe down here, man. You know, even when I first got here, you shared with me a couple times that you could see me living here, and I can possibly see myself living here too. There are some crazy ass drivers, though. I'll say that. That's for sure.
Oh man, I'm glad you brought that up. We were talking about that today. Me, Glenn, and Shivang all went down to the beach. We hung out at South Beach, just vibing for a couple hours, and went to Muscle Beach and all. And on the way, I was telling them guys, man, I've driven all around this country, and that little stretch of I-95 between Lauderdale and Miami is the most dangerous road I've ever driven on. I've seen some crazy stuff, and even today when we were vibing in South Beach area, remember the motorcycles we saw, man? There was this one guy, man. It was like being at Bike Week in Daytona again. He was riding wheelies all up and down the street at 90 miles an hour. It was pretty crazy. But anyway, so G, we're going to talk to you again in a minute, Shivang, about that convention we went to. But G, we got background noise, y'all. We got traffic flying down the road, dogs barking. You might hear a motorcycle go flying by any second. But hey, anything can happen live, and it's kind of fun. I just say we were stressing out a little bit before the show, trying to get everything working right, and technical difficulties and all that bullshit. But hey, we're just having a ball, man. It's fun. Anything can happen live. So I do want to switch topics now, though, and talk about a couple of things I mentioned. G, you and your beautiful wife, Awana, my daughter-in-law, Awana, got to go to the UFC 291 fight. And I know, you're kind of buddies with Dustin Poirier. We've had you on the show before. You talked a lot about, going out to Louisiana and participating in that 5K run. I think it was 5K run to support his nonprofit, the Good Fight Foundation. He does such great work in the community. And I know you're a big fan of his, and me and Shivang, we were watching the fight too. And for anyone who may have missed it, if you're not into all that kind of stuff, Dustin did not beat Justin Gaethje in that fight. I'll never say he lost, because he definitely ain't no fucking loser. That dude is a fucking winner. He did not win that fight though. Gaethje, man, it was fucking bizarre. If you haven't seen the finish to that fight, y'all, I highly encourage you to go on YouTube and maybe check it out. What I was telling you, G, and I definitely want to hear from you. I don't mean to hijack the conversation. Is what impressed me most about that fight was not even that Gaethje got that kick in, but that Dustin got right up from it. It didn't even fucking knock him out. That's one thing you say about that boy. He can take a punch and a kick in that case, right? So just tell us a little bit about your experience going out to the UFC fight and being there for that.
The experience was amazing, incredible,
and right up there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
No, the experience was incredible. Dustin Poirier, obviously, he's a warrior. He's incredible. My favorite fighter. He's one of my biggest inspirations. And so I've been watching him for years, and he's inspired me to make life changes, and helped, kind of show me the path in the sense of, never giving up, having perseverance. And I've always wanted to see him fight live. So, I knew him fighting Justin in Utah was going to be amazing. So I decided to fly out there and be in his corner and just, do what I could to show the support and also see a good fight. So going there, it was incredible. It didn't turn out, the way we were hoping in the end. But again, just if you watch the post-fight interview, I was able to take away from, just listening to him that, when times are good, be grateful. When times are bad, be graceful, because, him losing in the end, it doesn't define him, in any way. It's just showing again that he's a warrior. And if you get knocked down, you got to pick yourself back up. So, yeah. To answer your question, the experience was incredible.
Well, G, you mentioned his post-fight interview, and Dean, I sent you some photos and just a few short video clips. We don't have a lot today, y'all, but why don't we, if you can, Dean, let's bring up, the pics first, and then we have a couple short video clips that will show That's not the one. We'll come to that next. That's me and Jake Paul. So here we go. This is it. This is a promo pic they had for the fight, Poirier and Gaethje. And there's Glenn and Dustin at the top at a meet and greet. Him and I went to not far from here in Lauderdale a few years ago. And then there I am with them at the bottom. So we thought we'd show that. That was like a promo for the fight that, again, happened on July 29th over in Salt Lake City that G went to with Awana. Let's show that next pic, Dean. You talked about how that fight did not necessarily define him, which it absolutely did not. And no, next pick, we'll show that one again in a minute. I think there was one more pick, Dean, and no, there might be one more. I sent Dean all these picks today, kind of at the last minute. Okay, that was it on the picks. Okay, well then let's go.
Glenn, I don't know if you hear me.
And I think the first one is of the actual arena. You should be able to see by looking at the thumbnail for the video. It's actually G and Awana in the arena in Salt Lake City at the UFC fight.
Yeah, the atmosphere was amazing. You could feel the energy in the crowd. And, you know, if anyone's familiar with Dustin, he always leaves it all on the line and fights. You know, he goes in there to hurt you. He goes in there to make a statement. And so the energy was live. It just, you know, unfortunately didn't turn out the way, you know, we were hoping. But it was great to just be there and have the energy and have that experience to see, you know, him in the octagon for the first time. So
okay, well, Dean, we have another video clip, and I tried to edit it, but it just didn't work out the way I was hoping. So I think the thumbnail is going to be like the screen of my phone. But after that goes away, you'll see you mentioned the post-fight interview, G, and we have a video clip of Dustin talking a little bit about. It's kind of funny, actually. He's got a great sense of humor, and he talks a little bit about what might be next for him. So if we could show that video clip, Dean, let's try to.
It's the theater of the unknown out there. It's heartbreaking, but I keep coming back like Pookie. You know, it keeps calling me. I can't stop. So we'll see what happens, man. I might need another hit. I don't know. You know, I'm just taking it one day at a time, 1 minute at a time right now. But I'm happy. My life is good.
Okay, yeah, I love it. You know, like I said, he's got a sense of humor because people always ask after the fights like that, well, what are you going to do next? Who do you want to fight now and all that? And I don't think that's the end of the road for Dustin Poirier. I really don't, man. He's a badass, you know, and I just thought it was kind of funny. He said, you know, he's like Pookie. He just needs another hit, you know, keep coming back. So like I said, Glenn, for me, God bless Justin Gaethje. If anybody was going to win the fight, you know, other than Dustin, I actually kind of like Justin Gaethje. I've always thought he was kind of classy guy, you know. I used to be a fan of Conor. I'm really not anymore, you know. He just became too cocky for me, you know. In his earlier career, he was a real inspirational guy. And I ain't going to try to go down that rabbit hole, talk shit about Conor McGregor, but I'm just not a big Conor fan anymore. I think he'll be coming back eventually, you know. And I know you, G, used to be a Conor fan too. And I don't mean to say you're not anymore, but I know that last fight he had with Dustin was kind of fucked up. Some of the shit he said, you know. And so what I'm saying is, you know, if Dustin wasn't going to win a fight like that, I'm kind of glad it was to a guy like Justin Gaethje. But I do think that there's going to be a trilogy because for those of us that follow this stuff, Dustin beat Justin Gaethje the first time he fought him, and now Justin won this one. So I think they're going to have a rubber match. And G, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that. You think they'll have one?
Well, the first fight they fought, it was real special to me because it was a time where, you know, I was looking to make some changes in my life, and Dustin had a long road to get to a title shot. And when he fought Justin the first time, he made a bold statement at the end of the fight when he beat him and said that he was close to the mountaintop and he's been knocked down over and over in 2 different weight classes, and he wasn't going to stand and ask for something he didn't earn. And he basically was telling the UFC, hey, I've been knocked down, and you know, and I'm coming back. I just beat Justin in his hometown. You know, I earned this title shot, and he said he showed a lot of mental fortitude, and that really stuck out to me at the time, and I drew a lot of inspiration from that. And then so it was real special to just be able to full circle to come and watch him fight the second time. So, you know, it was unfortunate he lost, because this would have kind of honestly put him in a title spot contention for next run at the world title, which is like, you know, the biggest accomplishment in the UFC. So since he fell short a bit, I think he has to answer a lot of questions, look himself in the mirror, and figure out what's going to be next. But I think in his heart of hearts, he's a fighter at heart. He's got a lot of, like you said, tread left on the tires. So I think he's going to take this, and we call him Mr. Bounce Back.
Yeah.
Because he's never lost 2 fights in a row. So I think, it's just you know, onwards the only direction. So just, you know, moving forward and you know, just taking it one fight at a time, and eventually, you know, he'll know what the next right move is.
Okay, but you answered that question to me like a politician. I love you to death, but you danced all around it, and I get it. I agree with everything you just said. I'm just going to ask you again, a yes or no answer. Do you think that there's going to be a trilogy, a rubber match, third fight between Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje?
Oh, yeah, of course, and I'm hoping it's for the world title.
Yeah.
I hope Justin fights for the title. Dustin does another fight to win, and if Justin wins the title, they do the trilogy for the world title.
Yes,
what
exactly.
A story.
Oh, I know, it'd be great, and I really don't think Dustin's done. So, Shivang, I see you over there kind of biting at the bit, wanting to chime in this conversation. We're going to talk about that Jake Paul Nate Diaz fight in a minute. What do you think about, you know, because you and I watched that Dustin fight together. So, what's your thoughts on it? You think there's going to be a trilogy?
Trilogy, baby. Round three. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, hey, God bless Dustin Poirier. Really hope to have him on the show. If you watch it or you see this, even the recorded version, Dustin, we really would love to have you on the show sometime. And we'll see. It might happen. So now we're going to talk about that Jake Paul Nate Diaz fight that took place last weekend. And I watched that fight with Shivang at a place in Sacramento we went to. That was a cool spot that we went to. It was a local, you know, pub or whatever, and pool hall kind of place. And, you know, we just did the typical thing you do, you know, got some chicken wings and a hamburger and watched the fight. And it was a great fight. I know you say you watched it from here in Miami with Awana, Glenn. Yeah, man, let's pull them pictures up again if you can, Dean. There was that one picture that was the promo picture for the fight. Yeah, there it is, Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. And if you're a UFC fan, you know Nate Diaz. He's a beast, man. He's been around for years, and even though he lost his share of fights in the UFC, he can damn sure take a punch, man, and he is a badass. And, of course, you know, Jake Paul, he's really taken a lot of shit in the media because everybody say, oh, he's not a real fighter. He's a guy, poser, wannabe YouTube guy that wanted to become a fighter. And if you would, Dean, show that picture of me with Jake Paul again, if you would. I got to meet the guy. I just want to show this picture again. I was at a conference last December, actually in Orlando, and he happened to be there. I wasn't for the conference that he was there for. He was there for some boxing thing that was going on, this big promotion. I bumped into him in the hall, and I just asked him if I could have a picture. I didn't really get to have a conversation with him or get to know him or anything, but he was nice to me. And he said, yeah, bro, let's do it. And we took a picture. And as I've shared on the show before, and I even posted something on social media, the one thing that struck me about Jake Paul is that motherfucker is a badass. He is all muscle. So I posted that, you know, if you think Jake Paul is a poser and a joke and a pushover and he ain't a real fighter, with all respect, y'all, you are badly mistaken. He takes this shit serious and he is in shape. Now, that being said, I've always been a huge Nate Diaz fan. Love the guy. He's a beast. And I love that he takes a punch and keeps on coming, because that's been the story of my fucking life. Always, like he said, G, with Dustin, the comeback kid, I've been knocked down 7 times, but got up motherfucking 8. And, so I love Nate Diaz. And I just kind of felt like I didn't really have a dog in the race in that fight. But I damn sure didn't count Jake Paul out. And I thought they put on a pretty good fight, 10 rounds, and he won by decision. Nate Diaz didn't dispute it at the end. I thought they both came out afterwards talking, pretty good about each other. And Nate Diaz gave him props. He said, oh, yeah, he's a fucking real one, man, So anyway, that's my take on the fight. Couldn't resist talking to you about it, G, because I know you're a fan as well. And I'm just curious if you would share with us your thoughts on what you thought about that fight.
I thought it went the way that, in my heart, Nate Diaz being a Warrior, UFC legend, boxing's like the sweet science. It's a whole other ball game. Even though Nate Diaz was training with the best boxers in the UFC, it's just, in my opinion, it's different. And Jake Paul being like 3 or 4 weight classes above him, being the bigger guy, has enough money to put the best people around him for a training camp. I knew it wasn't going to be a walk in the park for Nate Diaz. I was pulling for the UFC vet, and I'm a big fan of Nate Diaz. So I was pulling for Nate, but I knew it was going to be a tough fight. And then, yeah, Jake, I mean, how can you not respect, stepping in the ring, with
Nate Diaz,
with or just in general stepping in the ring. So respect. I just I don't know. I'm more of a fan of just boxers fighting the boxers, UFC, MMA sticking to MMA, and more focused on the fighters, the actual fight game opposed to these like crossover events. I mean, it was entertaining, but it went the way I thought it was going to go, where Nate was kind of in his face, taking some hits, but still, but brought the fight to him, closed the distance, and Jake can crack, and he was taking some hits, but in the end, Jake pulled the W, but I feel like Nate, in the end, he put a little guillotine choke on him just to show that if it was a real fight, it would be game over. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
But it went the way I thought. So
right on. Well, Shivang, you and I watched the fight together too, and I know you was more definitely pulling for Nate Diaz. There were a couple times during the fight at the bar. That whole bar was Nate Diaz, because he's fought out of Stockton, which is right down. You can pull that down, Dean. Thanks, man. Yeah, which is right down the road from Sacramento, where we watched the fight. And there were a couple times that you just couldn't resist, and you shouted out, "Beat his ass, Nate! Beat his ass!" So I'm just curious, Shivang. I kind of know where you're at with it, but share with our viewers and listeners what your take on the fight was.
Like kind of G was saying, man. I definitely respect Jake Paul in terms of what he's doing and marketing and the hustle and putting a show on. I just don't respect him as a fighter. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like the LeBron thing, man. LeBron is one of the best basketball players on the planet. I just grew up hating on LeBron. It's not like I actually hate him or have any ill intention. I want him to do good, but I grew up as a Kobe fan. If you grew up as a Kobe fan, then you're fucking hating LeBron because he comes in the greatest basketball player conversation. So, man, I don't know. Kind of like Nate Diaz said after the fight, man, like that was just some exhibition shit. If it got in the octagon, my personal opinion is that shit would go way different if it got in the octagon,
Well, and you know what? I appreciate your take on it, Shivang, and that may happen because apparently Jake Paul's egging Nate Diaz on to join him in the octagon and go that way. And I don't know, man. It could happen. Obviously, y'all, there's a lot of hype involved and marketing. And, I even had some guys post some comments in the pic I posted on social media saying they thought the thing was fixed. Now, I'm just curious. I'll ask both of y'all that question. Personally, I don't think it was fixed. I think it was a legit fight. It would be hard to have the fix on for a fight that went 10 full rounds. And if you remember, Shivang, that fight right before that with the 2 girls, they were badasses and they were going at it. And we both said, damn, man, it's going to take a lot for these boys to live up to that, because that was a hell of a fight. And I think they did. They went at it. They weren't dancing around each other that whole fight, kind of like the whole Conor Mayweather bullshit. This was a legit fight, in my opinion. What do you think, G? You think it was staged, or you think it was a legit fight?
No, it was legit.
Yeah, it was legit.
Nate wouldn't sell his integrity for a paycheck.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. You think the same, Shivang? What's your thoughts?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Cause like in terms of the whole conspiracy of being fixed, you know, I did hear some valid points that if Jake lost this, I'm pretty sure that would be over for his career. 2 losses in a row. It's kind of hard to bring a lot of money in. And I don't know, man. I know Nate's a very, humble, integrity-based guy, but it's like, bro, I feel like with certain things, man, people follow the money, and this shit brought a lot of fucking money in, you know. And I don't know. I don't really know, man. I don't have an opinion on that.
Right. You'll reserve. Well, hey, I want to send a shout out right now to that boy Chris Soldani that you and I met, Shivang, at the Kasky and Anonymous Future of Artists Summit. And I got to tell you, Chris, I can't see the chat right now. My boy Dean, the producer of the show back in Orlando, is monitoring it, and he just posted your comment, man. And I really appreciate that, bro, and love what you're doing with the music, man. And love to have you maybe as a guest on the show. Since Chris chimed in, I just got to say, bro, that me and Shivang produced a cover of a song I did this past week. I covered Kasky's "Learning to Breathe," and I sent it to Anonymous. Him and I message back and forth pretty regularly. I'd have sent it right to Kasky, but he gets bombarded with shit. He probably never even see it. And so, Anonymous, his name's Marley. He goes by Anonymous, his stage name. Such a cool guy. And him and I have developed this kind of friendship since the summit. And even before that, we talked a lot on the phone. So anyway, I sent it to him. And he said, wow, man, it sounds really good. I just sent it to Kasky. So, Shivang, thank you for helping me produce that song, man. That song means so much to me. The lyrics hit so hard. And when I think about what was going on in my life at the time that song dropped, man, it's like, God, I used to listen to that song over and over and over and over and all the time. And I just had like this dream about covering it, and I thought it came out pretty fucking good.
Yeah, man. If you haven't listened to it, man, I even told Glenn that I think it was, and I'm not saying it because I produced it. I produced some of his other stuff too, and I told him that I think this is one of the best covers he did, you know.
Well, I appreciate that.
He did the hard work, man. So.
Yeah, well, we both did, and I appreciate that. And I'll put it out there soon, y'all. And hey, speaking of Kasky, we really hope to have him and Anonymous on the show, down the road. Kasky said he'd do the podcast with us, and I just been trying to fine tune and tweak it and get it just right. But we'll get him on eventually. I really do think so. I know he's out on the road right now doing some great shows. I saw he was doing a post with Yellow Wolf G out in Sturgis. And, speaking of him, my boy G, he's the one that turned me on to Kasky when he was younger. You went to the same school as him for a year over in Central Florida. God damn, what was the name of that screen? Indian Trails in Winter Springs. Yeah. And then G took me to a Kasky show at this club downtown in Orlando. I think it was called Firestone. And I've been riding with him ever since. And then you turned me on to Yellow Wolf, and we went to see Yellow Wolf together. Remember that?
We went and saw Yellow Wolf before.
Oh, shit.
We went and saw Yellow Wolf before Kasky back in 2012.
Yeah, so we've been riding with them guys for a long time.
Full circle. It was crazy because when Eminem was looking to sign new artists, Yellow Wolf came out with a song called Pop the Trunk.
Yeah.
And it was different. It was like this country rap kind of like, style. And I was like, man, I know that's like so different. It's a different sound. And so I was like, I bet Eminem signs this guy just because he was making a lot of name for himself in the streets, like in the underground. And then Eminem signed him, and then going to school with Kasky, and then seeing his rise with Birdman and like kind of making a name for himself. I always thought him and Yellow Wolf were like similar personalities. I was like, it'd be cool if they connected, and they did.
And they did.
I'm like, damn, I was calling some predictions.
Oh, you got an ear for music.
Album together is pretty.
It's
crazy.
You definitely got an ear for it. Another one that you turned me on to, and there's no joke, y'all. That boy, The Weeknd. G was bumping The Weeknd before anybody even fucking knew who it was. And he keeps telling, Dad, you got to listen to this guy, man. You got to check this guy out. I'm telling you, he's going to fucking go to the top. And he did. And
The Weeknd, he came out with mixtapes on YouTube, and he didn't even show his face. It was just his voice and his songs. It was just a few mixtapes that got put together. That's why his first album was called Trilogy. But when the mixtapes were coming out on YouTube back in like 2010, before he collaborated with Drake. He was big in the underground, and I was listening to him on YouTube, and I thought his voice was incredible, and I thought, man, this guy's like, he's gonna be huge. And then sure enough, he became who The Weeknd is. So
yeah, well, we even went to see him. Remember, we went to see him in Tampa at what's called Amelia Arena.
I think we saw him in Tampa in 2015. I mean, he was already pretty big at that point.
Yeah,
I
he
actually
was
had
big,
an opportunity, and I'm mad at myself to this day because I love him so much. Like, I love his music. He was playing at the House of Blues, and that would have been more like intimate
show. Yeah,
but I didn't go. But then he ended up blowing up to what he is now.
Well,
so now
but you've seen him twice, didn't you? Take Awana, your wife, to go see him once after you and I saw him. That time?
Again, those were like in like stadium settings, though.
Yeah,
you know, I wish I would have saw him back when it was more of like, when it was more underground.
Well, hey, y'all, we're getting a little off topic, but Chris, thank you for that comment, bro. See, you start talking music, man, or you chick my mind about music, and man, we can go off in that direction and do 2 hours. And we will, man. I'd love to have you on the show sometime. But anyway, let's get back to talking more about fitness, exercise for a minute. And we talked about the Dustin and Justin fight. We talked about the Jake Paul and Nate Diaz fight. And one of the things you said, Glenn, when you talked about Dustin a little bit, and it's certainly the case for me, is that he inspired you to be the fitness enthusiast you are now. And by the way, folks, G was on a guest on the show a while back, and we went and took a real deep dive into his fitness journey. And just to give you a real short recap of that, you've been going hard at it in the gym for what, about 12 years now, Glenn? Is that what it's been?
Yeah, just consistency, like working out on a weekly basis, consistency for like 12 years.
Well, part of the reason I want to bring that up, y'all, is because in my journey with getting off them fucking pills and getting clean and living that recovery life again, a huge part of it for me has been physical fitness, because that is a sickness. Addiction, man, it'll fuck you up mentally, spiritually, and definitely physically. And that's what happened to me. And G, I am forever grateful to you, man. It's like, I'm trying not to get emotional, y'all, because, man, when your own child, your own son, who is also my best friend in the whole world, I'm so blessed, helps coach you back to physical health and back to life, man, and help me get through that fucking addiction, I'm just forever grateful. And I also know that Dustin Poirier was such an inspiration to you. And as you've shared with me, helped you on your journey into getting into fitness. And so I feel the same way. If it wasn't for Dustin Poirier, I may not fucking be clean right now. Certainly wouldn't be in the physical shape I am, because he's been such an inspiration to me and an inspiration to you too.
Right. Yeah. Not just in fitness, just from like not letting life, if you get knocked down, picking yourself back up and never giving up, perseverance. That's the biggest thing I drew from Dustin, why he's like such a huge inspiration, is that when you get knocked down or you feel defeated, you can't let that bog you down. You got to pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, and get back at it. But at the same time too, definitely inspiration for, staying fit and, jogging and stuff. But
yeah, well, you know what? And it's like, it's one thing I know you have a passion for, because y'all, we went to the beach earlier today, and we were kind of cleaning up, getting ready for the show. And while I was taking my turn getting cleaned up and getting ready, I couldn't help but overhear you and Shivang talking fitness. And Shivang, I couldn't help but pick up that you were definitely tuned in to what G was telling you. And then you even were following up with questions like, well, hey, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? So it inspired me and made me feel great that G, who's been such a positive influence and inspiration for me when it comes to fitness, was passing on some of that knowledge and wisdom of his 12-year journey with going to the gym on a daily to you as well,
Yeah, I'm grateful, man. Grateful. I've been learning a lot, spending time with G. So
yeah, well, G, thank you so much, bro, for being on the show with us today. And we're not done just yet, but we're going to shift gears a little bit now, y'all, and talk a little bit about that convention I told y'all about that Shivang and I went to. And then we're going to bring the show to a close. I told you we'd probably go about 45 minutes today, and you're getting close to that, but we may go a little more than that, but it's not going to be the longest show as usual today. But Shivang and I went over to we came into Miami like I don't know, a week ago, and we stayed here with G for a couple of days. We had some fun, and then we drove over to Bonita Springs, which is in kind of sort of the Fort Myers area, and spent 3 days over there to participate in the South Florida Regional Convention of Narcotics Anonymous, which I've attended many times over the years. Definitely missed a few years there while I was on that relapse, hooked on them opiate pain medication pills and shit. And, I've gone, this was my 3rd year in a row now that I've been clean again. And so, Shivang, I know you've been to the Florida convention they call FRICNA, that is like the whole big state one. And now you've been to the South Florida one too. I happen to like the South Florida one. I love them both, but this is definitely one of my favorite NA conventions, and I've been to them all over the country. What were your thoughts on it, man? Share with us a little bit about your experience being there and what you thought about the convention.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it a lot, man. When we were talking, we kind of talked about how it was very diverse. There was a wide range of speakers from different ethnicities and different sexual orientations and different places in the world, and I really liked how it just kind of brought everybody together, and there was a different message from everybody, So
yeah. Well, hey, I gotta interject. Okay, good. I was just gonna say we wanted to bring you into the camera shot, so there you go. Well, Shivang, I couldn't agree with you more. We talked about that a little bit earlier. That there was, as I talk about on the show all the time when we start talking about NAAA 12-step programs, that they're very eclectic, and that certainly was the case at this convention. You had black, white, Latino, gay, straight, guys, women, young people, middle-aged people, older people, old-timers, newcomers. It was just such a cool vibe there. And so one of the things that goes on at NA conventions, AA conventions, recovery conventions in general, y'all, is on like the big Saturday night, ta-da, they have a banquet, and we went to the banquet and got to reunite with a lot of friends from, the recovery community we sat with and all that kind of stuff. And then they do a roll call where they call out the states around the country, and anybody that's there jumps up and says, hey. And it was the first time I ever got to stand up at an NA convention and represent California, because I live out in Sacramento now, and that was kind of cool. And then, of course, they do what's called a clean time countdown. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, y'all, I have 2 years and 5 months clean again. And so I got to stand up and represent all my fellow 2-year people when they got to 2 years. And Shivang got a short video clip of it that's fucking hilarious to me. It's only, about 10 seconds long. I appreciate you getting that on camera.
Man, that video can go viral for real. This video is entertaining.
Well, we try to maintain anonymity when we go to these types of events because, it is an anonymous program. So we didn't try to put anybody on blast that was there that, might not want to be on camera or anything. And, anybody that was around us was all fine with it. I got a bunch of pictures. We took pictures, and I do extend a courtesy when I take pictures at a convention and I ask people if we can get a picture together, if they mind if I put it on social media. And I think that's just a courtesy you extend to people at those kind of events. And I've never, not even once, ever had someone tell me, no, please don't do it. But point is, we didn't take liberties. So, so with all that said, Shivang, you were telling me, actually, I told him, I said, bro, don't post that on social media. And you fucking did anyways on your story. And as we were driving home last night, you were like, damn, bro, I've had more people, comment or like on that story than any other one I'm posted and shit. So that made me feel good, man,
Yeah, it's an entertaining video, man.
Okay, well then, with all that said, let's hope Dean can pull it up. Like I said, don't blink, y'all, because it's quick. It's 10 seconds. But this is me right before they called 2 years clean at the Clean Time Countdown at the South Florida NA Convention. Well, that was it. Even G's sitting here laughing next to me. Y'all, I almost fell out of my damn chair. And by the way, Dean, I know you're probably thinking the same thing I was. I told Shivang after I saw that, I go, God damn, bro, you got to be the worst videographer I ever seen in my life.
Man, if you think Glenn's reaction was funny when he stood up in that video, you should have seen the people around him in the room, man.
Yeah. Well, I definitely was excited, but I will tell you, there's a lot of other people that stood up throughout all the other years and time where that were just as excited because, you know, when you've been through hell, y'all, and you get a chance to get together with like-minded people, because there were literally thousands of people there, and we were all just celebrating. And I loved the main speaker last night because that's what he said. He goes, you know, these conventions are an opportunity for those of us in the recovery community to get together and celebrate our recovery. And there's a lot of recovery that goes on there, a lot of meetings, workshops, seminars, marathon meetings, all that stuff where people do, you know, work on getting more knowledge and wisdom and stuff. But there's a lot of cool, fun stuff that goes on, pool parties and all that kind of stuff, and that banquet and that celebration. And man, I was so happy, you know, to be able to do that. And G, you actually came out to the South Fricna to visit with me a couple of years ago when I was here, because they do it, you know, in South Florida. You remember coming out to that one?
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, good news. They're coming back to Miami for the convention next year. So they move it around from city to city from time to time. So anyway, y'all, I just thought we'd show that for fun. And Shivang, I'm so glad that you had a great time there, bro. Been blessed spending time with you over the past few weeks. We got one more day in Miami, y'all, and then I fly back to Sacramento. Shivang flies back to Detroit. And G, you're flying off to Wyoming here in a week, right?
Yep. Yeah, going on a backpacking trip. So
yeah.
Nice to get away from the city life.
Yeah. And then a week after I'm back in Sac, y'all, I go back to Detroit City where I grew up, and I'm spending a week there to go celebrate with my nephew Jason and his beautiful wife Chantel. They just recently got married, but they're having the big reception and wedding celebration coming up a week from Friday, I think it is the 25th. So I'll be in Detroit for a week for that. And we're going to do another live edition of the show from Detroit City. Dean's going, oh, shit, really? Another live one? But we'll be back in the studio next Sunday, y'all, where I'll be coming to you live from the Dare Me podcast studio in Sacramento. It'll be a little less hectic, a little less background noise, because we literally are out here on the terrace, y'all. There is downtown Miami where G lives on the 21st floor of this high rise that I keep forgetting the name of. What's it again? The Art Center?
Art Tower Plaza.
Art Tower Plaza. Yeah, y'all. So anyways, with all that said, y'all, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. Glenn, got to give my boy a hug. That's my best buddy. I'm so blessed, y'all, to have such a great son and supporter and fitness coach like we talked about. And, of course, my best friend Shivang that I've been hanging with for the last few weeks. Oh, man, I appreciate it. Glenn said he's proud of me, man. How cool is that? Oh, and you know what? Let's show that last picture, Dean, of all of us at Muscle Beach, if you don't mind, because we did go down to South Beach today. We hung out on the beach, and, man, we just got to have some really cool, deep conversation between, you know, three guys, you know, me and my son and my best friend Shivang, and we sat there for about 2 hours. We went out and swam in the ocean a little bit, and then we hit Muscle Beach, and there we are. Just had a little mini time workout at Muscle Beach, and man, I'll have that picture around forever and ever. Great memories, man. I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate, you know, having you all in my life. And also want to thank you for being part of the podcast. Shivang, thank you for participating in the show today, bro.
Of course, man. It's an honor to be on the podcast with you guys, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, we'll have you back again. And G, hoping to have you on again soon, too. And with all that said, Dean, anything you want to add before we wrap up, bro?
It sounds like you're having a hell of a time down there.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. And I hope to make it back to Orlando between now and the end of the year. I'm not sure exactly when. We were talking about Cassidy a little bit earlier in Anonymous, and I had seen something from Anonymous, I don't know, about a month ago, that they were working on putting together the second annual Future Artists Music Summit. And so hopefully they do follow through with that. And they did it in December of last year, early December. So if they do that again, in early December, hopefully I'll make it back to Orlando then so I can come see you and maybe do an edition of the Dare Me podcast where we're both live in the digital Post Effects Digital Studios right there in Orlando. But anyway, with all that said, y'all, that's it from here for now. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I want to say a shout out to that boy Chris again. That was a really cool message, bro. I really appreciated that. Meant a lot to me, man. I'd love to have you on the show sometime. And again, with all that said, y'all, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up live from Miami, Florida. We'll talk to you soon. Have a safe week. Be good, everyone. We'll see you next time on the Dare Me podcast.
Good night, everyone.